once more. And so there's yet more evidence that Russia's campaign in Ukraine is failing. So only yesterday, the 9th of October, sorry, the 8th of October, Putin, he appointed a new general in charge of this so-called special military operation. So he sacked the previous one. So the new general is Sergei Surovikin. Now, the Kremlin very rarely declares who's in charge of operations. So why would they feel impelled to make this announcement? Somehow to give new confidence to troops and think, well, things are going to get better because we've got, in fact, the previous one proof positive that Putin knows that he's underperforming. Now, can't blame that general that much. There's systemic problems, and also Putin, he's wanted to do this for a long time. He wanted to take over Ukraine either peacefully, I mean, through intimidation, really, or through war. It was, remember, a hybrid warfare. They've been open about this about 20 years in their doctrine, that yes, they could use military means, a declared war, an undeclared war. If we've got now, they could use assassinations, intimidation. They can cyber attacks, propaganda, cheating in elections, suborning political parties, economic blackmail, things like that. A combination of any and all of these methods to accomplish their goals. And if they could have got it by intimidating the Ukrainians, they attempted to do it in February this year, then they would have done that without killing anyone. But as that didn't work, as the Ukrainians were determined to stand up and resist, to fight for their freedom, well, then Russia was obliged to fight if they were going to subjugate the Ukrainians, but not very successfully. So Surovikin, he's 55 years old, and he fought in the Tajik civil war way back in the early 90s. Tajikistan, a former Soviet republic. And in the 90s, there was a especially vicious civil war there. I know civil wars are never gentle, but this one was egregiously horrific, with large-scale massacres committed on both sides. It's really the Mujahideen from Afghanistan. They went in there, and because Tajikistan is adjacent to Afghanistan, and the Tajiks are Sunni Muslims almost without exception, and some of them were amenable to that Islamist ideology. So there was the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which consists of Belarus, Armenia, Russia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan. Those half a dozen erstwhile Soviet states. There were more actually, but the other quantum members have left. And so Tajikistan said we're invaded by a foreign power, the Mujahideen of Afghanistan, so it invoked the CSTO Charter. Russia, Kazakhstan, and some other CSTO countries, they dispatched troops to help, otherwise the CSTO would be a dead letter. Moreover, the Mujahideen took over Tajikistan. They could spread into the rest of Central Asia, onto Russia, and so on. Remember that almost 20% of Russia's population is Muslim, in fact, not widely appreciated in the West. So anyway, this general, he fought there, he fought in Chechnya, to crush the Chechen independence movement. Remember, Ramzan Kadyrov, the current president of Chechnya, he was an avowed enemy of Moscow in those days. And Putin saying, Russia does not negotiate with terrorists, she destroys them. Except, of course, when she gets the terrorists to be on her side. So once a terrorist, always a terrorist. Kadyrov, he's using the very same methods for Putin as he used against him, using this reign of terror, the murder of gay men, for example, in Chechnya. And Kadyrov just the other day was promoted to general in the Russian army. Kadyrov claims that Chechnya has overfulfilled its quota of recruits for the Ukraine war by 2.5 times. And Kadyrov said he himself has been at the front line and has been photographed there with 3 of his sons, the youngest of whom is 15. So breaking the laws of war and indeed Russia's domestic law by trying to put someone who's below military age in a combat zone. Anyway, so this general Surovikin, he's fought in Syria to uphold President Bashar al-Assad's dictatorship, and that's an ominous sign because, of course, one of the key weapons that Russia and its Syrian acolytes have used there are various poison gases, nerve agents, which is why they've deliberately killed several thousand civilians in Syria. So that is a warning of things to come. Perhaps they're going to use this in Ukraine. I've been saying this for months. They've been preparing the ground. The pretext is, the Russians, together with the Ukrainians, they've been developing chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons in Ukraine without a shred of corroboratory evidence evinced to substantiate that. So, and that will be the excuse. Oh no, we didn't do it. The Ukrainians did it themselves. Yeah. Victim blaming. Russia's enemies, they're always deliberately killing thousands of their own civilians. Funny that. Um, Anyway, Surovikin has already been fighting in southern Ukraine, and perhaps it was semi-successful there. So, although the Russian government never officially acknowledged he was in command of the Russian forces in Ukraine up to this date, is widely known to be General Alexander Dvornikov. So he's also served in Chechnya and indeed in Syria. So anyway, they're trying to distract attention from this really failing campaign. And a lot of the pro-war bloggers, Ribber and others, have said it's a failing campaign. And someone I knew was proud to call a colleague Oxymiron, the renowned Russian rapper who's moved abroad, is in Turkey and so on. He's openly denounced this illegal and disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and he's been labeled a foreign agent. Anything he publishes in Russia has a foreign agent on it. Agent meant to be very damning, branding him in effect a traitor. So anyway, the president of Chechnya, Kadyrov, whom I name checked earlier, he openly said that previous general Dvornikov needed to be dismissed, and it was done. Shows you something of the sway that Kadyrov's got. This Caucasian wild man, and Moscow will just give him a very long leash so long as he'll keep Chechnya under control. He can be as brutal as he wants. He can have it as a Shariat state. Despite Putin claiming he's against Islamic extremism, Putin's got his own Islamic extremist state within the borders of the Russian Federation that he subsidizes. And Kadyrov demanded that Dvornikov be sacked, and indeed he was. And a senior politician, Kartapalov, said that there are these generals are lying about the situation. Well, which they indubitably were. Well, because people won't speak truth to power, in George Fox's famous phrase, because it's very much shoot the messenger. And so some people think that Putin is just not getting an accurate assessment of what's going on, and he's believing his own hype and propaganda, which is why he's so disappointed. That they need more troops. It's true they need, but we need more of everything and a higher quality. But also the troops need the very basics, like boots, bandages, whatever, food, ammunition, and their logistics was not good to begin with. Their logistic system, a commissariat, or whatever you want to call it, and it's got even worse because of these HIMARS deliberately targeting ammunition dumps, whatever, supply points where they pile up whatever it is they're going to provide to the troops and the front line, as in food, ammunition, command posts. Remember that it's a hyper-centralized system. That's why trifling decisions be referred up several echelons up the chain of command. That person quite high up has got too much on his desk, too many calls coming in. One person has to ask another, who asks another, who asks another. Decision made, and then that order relayed down the ranks before something is done. So it takes several hours to respond to a fast developing situation. And it was so important to surprise them. So in St. Petersburg, that's obviously Russia's second biggest city, Putin's hometown, the city administration has already announced that their New Year's and Christmas celebrations will be cancelled. And the money that was allotted to that is going to be redirected to funding the Russian military. There have been big crowdfunding and GoFundMe campaigns to pay for what they need. Remember, New Year is a bigger deal than Christmas in Russia because, of course, a New Year comes first. Being a formula secular country, that's where they make a big song and dance at a New Year. So we know New Year's concert, no charity reception at Tauride Palace as there usually is. Some of the children's activities will already go ahead. Some other Russian regions are cancelling their winter time festivities, like Kaluga region and Leningradsky region. So I suspect many, many more will do. So it shows just how badly they are treated. And these new draftees, they're in barracks without beds or very rusty beds, and they've got bits and pieces of uniform. They don't have a whole uniform. They don't have winter clothing in some cases, and that's a matter of life and death in Ukrainian winter. Not now, but by December it will be. Insufficient rations. Rations have gone off years before, rusting weapons, and so it's only going to get worse. If they couldn't supply 200,000 troops, how on earth are they going to supply 460,000 extra ones? Well, that'd be 660,000 altogether. Yeah. The Russian edition of McDonald's is now called Vkusna Tochka, as in delicious, full stop. Or if you're American, delicious, period. You can't argue with that. The fact is, it's delectable, the food they're offering. So they're having real trouble getting the draftees in, and the very first person to be charged with draft dodging has had the case dropped, which is obviously obviously not very good PR for them, because even more people say, well, I can contest it, I cannot show up. Remember, if you fail to show up, it's 2 years in prison. If you show up, sign on, and then go AWOL, then it's like a 10-year imprisonment. Now, they haven't closed the borders. They have turned around some men of military age going towards the borders. But, if I were Putin, obviously I wouldn't have started this war at all, and I would have made peace a longer time ago, blah, blah, blah. But being in the situation he is, with his mindset, the thing to do is obviously bar men 18 to 35 from going abroad. Unless they can prove they've got an exemption, maybe have to pay a huge sum of money to go abroad, maybe make it sort of a bond. If you don't come back in a certain period, you lose that money. That would help finance the war as well. So it's yet another sign that their campaign is failing, and the Ukrainians are driving forward. And this strike on the Kerch Strait Bridge is actually obviously quite a coup for the Ukrainians, even though it only destroyed part of the road bridge and damaged the rail bridge. The rail bridge is now operational again, even though that has actually diverted attention from the yet more battlefield success. Moving forward, not rapidly, these are not drastic defeats for the Russians yet, but it's cumulative. At some point, their morale may break when they just collapse and they start surrendering in droves. You see that towards the end of wars. We're not there yet, and it might never happen. But Putin is rapidly running out of military options, and that's why WMD seem to be soon one of the only things left, if he's not willing to throw his air force at it, which he should have done ages ago. But now I'm told the Ukrainians have got decent air defense, so it wouldn't be as effective as it would have been if he'd done that right at the end of February when the war kicked off. And then what else can he do? They're getting more tanks out of warehouses where they've been for decades in some cases, not maintained. We saw that they really failed kindergarten in terms of the military. Didn't do the really rudimentary things right. The very first thing that's dinned into a soldier, and I was never a soldier, is you've got to look after your kit. If it's polishing your boots, if it's oiling your weapon, whatever it is, you've got to keep things in good working condition. It's no good having it if it's not operational. A lot of these things aren't functional, so they're trucks breaking down, things rusting, not enough whatever water, oil in the engine, not having the winter tires have been stolen, sold off, so much corruption and defalcation in the military. Right, so thanks very much for watching my channel. So please subscribe to me on Patreon, and there are lots of things there that you wouldn't see otherwise. Donate to me on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Goodbye.